Hey guys, welcome to our June TechByte, which is very late in June this time. Sorry about that. I wanted to talk a little bit about our SD-WAN capability that came out in the last few months. I have a really quick presentation that I'm gonna totally zip through as fast as possible, and then I have a short demo to show you. So I'm gonna kick right off with it. Let's swap screens with this thing. There we go. Okay, perfect. So, quantum SD-WAN, right? Um, we now have SD-WAN on our gateways in the latest versions of Gaia. So, firstly, what is SD-WAN, right? SD-WAN stands for Software Defined Wide Area Networking, right? Basically, what it does is it gives network logic to the physical network links. Um, we support in our SD-WAN offering multiple WAN links. We support multiple ISPs. We support optimizing your routing. That's, of course, the big feature that we can optimize how we route specific applications or specific users. And of course, it's centrally managed. So prior to, in a typical network today, right, we have our headquarters slash data center in the center. We got these branch offices all over. We got the things on the internet. And today, everything, all the traffic basically gets routed via MPLS directly to HQ and goes through the enterprise firewall. There's a lot of reasons for that, but that's how it's been done for a long time, right? But with SD-WAN, we're able to choose what kind of things go where, right? So here in this picture, we've now added three separate links directly to the cloud from the branch offices. And you see the little Facebook icons and Office 365 icons and Slack all going over those links. So they're not getting routed through the main HQ or data center. We still have our MPLS lines for things that should go over that, like phone traffic, for example, in this illustration. But that's the idea, right? Is that we're going to improve and uh, optimize our internet flows, our network flows. The other big driver, I would say probably the biggest driver, is MPLS is kind of expensive, right? And a simple broadband connection at a branch and the SD-WAN solution combined is like quite a bit cheaper. This slide says 80%. You see it's estimating $1,000 per month for MPLS and 174 for the SD-WAN and two ISP links. So it sounds great, right? Why doesn't everybody do it? Well, the reason is that if we use just an SD-WAN solution, we are bypassing our enterprise security solutions at the data center, right? And therefore, we're making things more exposed and riskier. You can see right in this picture here on the right side, from the branch office, they've got this arrow direct to the internet. And clearly that bypasses that fancy firewall they have in the data center and all the controls that are on that firewall. So we have added SD-WAN to our firewalls. And so you get the same great features, all them things on the left that we've always had, right? And on the right, SD-WAN. And it's available on pretty much all of our gateways, cloud gateways, the very large data center ones, the normal 6,000 series enterprise ones you might be familiar with. It's even available on our SMB ones. I believe that's still in EA as of right this moment, but it'll be out soon. But we have it all, right? And we have it on our 5,000 series, the previous generation as well. That is the end of my slide deck. I promised I'd blow through it super fast, and I did. So I'm going to pause for 1 second, or actually I'll start getting my demo together. And while I'm doing that, if there's any questions, I will check in into the chat. I'm not seeing any right now, which doesn't necessarily surprise me. Okay, so here is our Quantum SD-WAN demo. This is on the Infinity portal. Looks familiar to anybody who's using a Harmony product or Smart One Cloud or what have you, anything in CloudGuard. And we're right here in SD-WAN, right? I skipped right over to our SD-WAN policy, right? So here is literally how we set up rules to steer certain applications. You see right here, for example, there's a rule for speedtest.net and a rule for traffic to Amazon and a rule for YouTube and GitHub and so on and so forth, right? And then we have like these group ones like the web conferencing tools, right? All these different ones, Zoom, FaceTime, WebEx, right? Another one we got here for remote access, a bunch of different tools. The real operator here, the functional column, so to speak, is this behavior, right? You see, we have different behaviors that have been built for these different services, and they've done a good job labeling them, you know, as here's the web conferencing behavior, here's the GitHub behavior, here's the YouTube behavior. I'll show you quickly first this, right? The WAN link mapping. As you can see, we have a gateway. It has 3 separate links, right? It has a 5G link and 2 internet connections with the 2 ISPs, right? And that'll come up in a second. And now again, the big operator is these behaviors, right? So let's take a look at GitHub, for example, because I know a lot of traffic goes through here. The GitHub behavior is such that the user goes through the branch gateway and directly to the internet, right? That's how this has been built. So it does not go back to the HQ gateway first, right? And we can set a variety of criteria on this one, right? How will we steer it to which link, right? We saw those 3 links before. We want a link that has, in these settings, up to 100 milliseconds latency, packet loss up to 5%. If it has more than that, it's going to steer away from from that link. It's going to prioritize some of the links, and it's going to check the quality through using pings, right? But there's a bunch of different ways to do it in here. Now we saw that one, right? So that was GitHub. Let's see about, let's see about like this one. Come on, remote access will have it. There you go. So here's a different routing, right? The user is going to go through the branch gateway, from the branch gateway to the HQ gateway, right? And again, we have these settings to choose the most optimal interface there, or path. That's the rules. The rules are fairly straightforward, I feel. Next step is to kind of see and monitor what we're looking at here, right? So over in the monitor section, we have our dashboard. It can be modified to show different time frames, right? As we see, got a lot of traffic coming through. We've had quite a bit of traffic, and you can see broken out what application is using it. And in this environment, it is, very predominantly GitHub for whatever reasons. There's probably some little widget they're using to send traffic back and forth. We can also see, the number of gateways and also the link swaps, right? How many times did traffic go from link 1 to link 2 because it no longer met those thresholds we saw a moment ago, right? So let's dig in a little further. Over to here in live monitoring. right? And we can kind of see what's going through right this moment, right? Or at specific moments, I should say, and which ISP based on the color, right? What else we got? So we also got events, right? So here in events, we can see, just kind of like logs almost, right? Like we switched, here's a bunch of switching, right? So the speed test, it found that the first ISP link worked and it switched from the 5G to that ISP1, right? Um, Here's one where it switched off that ISP1, right? The ISP1 was down and it switched over to the 5G. So we can actually watch and see our switches, and you can get a little bit more information when you double click on them. And then, of course, we have actual logs, which can show us, which traffic went over which steering object, right? So here's some traffic that met the Amazon rule, and it went through the Amazon steering object out to ISP1. And of course, we have our source and destination, like we do in a typical network log, that sort of thing. So that's how we can kind of monitor this live with the SD-WAN technology. Gonna kind of pause a little bit to see if we have any questions to this point. Feel free to drop them in the chat. I move on to just a second to the security side of things. Okay, cool. So we've seen the SD-WAN part, right? Establishing an optimized network and an optimized flow. But as we saw in the slide deck, right, the thing that's missing from your typical SD-WAN solution is security, right? And it's actually kind of bypassing the security you have in place. However, since these are on checkpoint gateways, they're subject to the same rules that the checkpoint gateways have and all the inspection engines that are running. So in this environment, we're actually running our management on Smart One Cloud, right? And we can see right in here, right in the policy, we can see things about SD-WAN, right? Here's those rules about, GitHub and Amazon and Zoom and speed test and all that stuff, right? And then in the logs, we can actually see, wait a second here, we can actually see that things are going over SD-WAN, right? And we can even see in the blade, right? The blade for this one is firewall and SD-WAN, right? So this is literally someone connecting to somebody connecting to this site and it going through the SD-WAN rules, right? This is Amazon, to actually go through the firewall's policy, right? To be allowed or blocked by the access policy, to be inspected by IPS, anti-malware, sandboxing, etc. Right. So, and you could even do like this, right? You could do the search blade : SD-WAN should be. Yep. So you could even do like this and narrow down your search, right? And say, okay, here's the traffic that went over the SD-WAN. And grab a log and see it. Another one for Amazon. Yeah, like this one's GitHub. So that's actually about all I wanted to show. I know this was kind of like a real quick demo for the SD-WAN, but that's about all I wanted to show for right now. I'm going to look in the chat to see if there's any questions. Okay, I do see one. Am I licensed for this today? Great question. So it is an additional license for SD-WAN. The license itself varies based on what gateway we're putting it on, right? So we actually just grab what model number you have, whether it be a very small SMB appliance or a very big, large data center appliance. We add the SD-WAN license and you're off to the races. You actually can connect your gateway, your management to it pretty easily through Smart Console. Good question. I'm not seeing anything else for questions, which is okay. Okay, so if anybody thinks up any questions or has any feedback or whatever, I'd love to hear it. Please feel free to shoot me an email. And if you have any ideas for a future session, of course, that'd be great too. Hope everybody has a great day, and we'll see you next time.